siècle là,
Oui,
surprendre tout le monde au 800.
The final of the men's 10,000 meters in 19.
Stop the ball out. Oh, it looks to be. Who else is in the race? The wave is there. The confidence is there.
Okay, recording a podcast. It is Saturday, December the 13th here in the US, a day later at the Track Stitch corporate headquarters, Auckland, New Zealand. Shano, I was there only a few days ago. Kind of surreal to see you sitting there, and I am back here in the US. Like I said in the intro, good news. I made it through customs and border security all safely. No issues there. How are you recovering after just getting sunblasted out on the golf course last week?
Well, mate, it was definitely the heat and then the wind, but it was more the ferocity of the battle between the Track Stitch podcasters. It reminded me of the ferocity that you brought to the track back in the late 90s. I couldn't quite get there as I couldn't on the track, but what a battle it was.
Oh, it was great times. Thank you for your hospitality. Yeah. Played 3 times at Terry Golf Course. Just absolutely, I mean, my bottom lip just got absolutely shredded by the sun there. Just forgot how brutal the New Zealand sun is.
It could have been the nerves, mate. Those titanic.
I think
battles.
So. Yeah. Hey, lots to talk about today. I think we're going to dive in a bit more on the hottest runner in New Zealand for many a year now, Sam Ruthe. Some amazing performances at New Zealand secondary schools last week. Over here in the US, Josh Hoey, 600-meter world record indoors. We didn't even talk about that last week with PC, and also a really good performance this morning from him in the mile out in Honolulu. We might not even get onto Grand Slam track, actually filing Chapter 11 for bankruptcy. And Athing Mu also changes coach. Bobby Kersey is he's gone. So plenty to talk about. First, just before we get into that, a few questions from the viewers about the old salad here. What's going on? Am I trying to be like John Walker or doing this for some kind of modeling gig? The truth is I'm just unemployed, and that's what happens to you here when you get unemployed. Just
it happened to me before I started my business about 14 years ago. It happens. It's like you don't even consciously intend to do it, but you let yourself go.
Yeah. So
it brings a kind of rock and roll sort of veneer to the podcast. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, good friend Robbo, now a huge fan of the podcast, was asking, "What's up with you here?" Is it like just all right? No, mate, I'm unemployed. All right. Should we get right into it? Like I said, tons to talk about. New Zealand secondary schools. Last week, I was there with you. We watched these races live. Our predictions went up in flames, as we said on the podcast with PC.
Although I've got to give myself props, I did pick a 148.44. So yeah, I did think he would smash it, but I selfishly for our bet, I was going with 50 to go. Come on, slow down a little bit. I could get the real bragging rights, but then I'm like, nah, get over yourself. You want this guy to just tear it up. It was incredible.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a bit of a treat for you here. So get ready for this. I'm going to make sure that you're on the stage here too. The Track Stitch technical team, the world famous Track Stitch technical team have come through. We've actually got the footage of Sam Ruthe running the 800 here, and using extra special technology, we've been able to put on an on-screen timer so we can actually accurately see what his splits were. Should we have a look at the race and just make some comments as we go through?
Hell yeah.
All right, let's do it. Okay, hold on a second. I'm just going to make sure that you are on the stage. There you are. Okay. So up the top here, top right, we've managed to, I found out how to do this from some guy on YouTube, which is going to come in very handy on another topic that we've got coming up potentially in the next month or so, timing a race on screen. So let's go through and have a look at this. This is the senior boys 800-meter final from New Zealand secondary schools that was just last week in Hastings, very close to where I grew up. The record was held by Brad Mathis, 150.24, and we all kind of know what happened, but let's actually watch this and we can make some comments as we're going along, Shano. So one of the things that you and I first noted on this one is like how kind of measured Sam was in the first 100, 200. Yep. And I got him at about 13 flat for the opening 100 meters there.
Sensible.
Just really nice and controlled. But you can just see he is like no fear, just straight to the front, going to take charge. Joe Martin, who's a very good runner in his own right, 149 guy himself, actually had a faster PR than Sam going into this, goes right with them. But coming around here, I think we're going to get see what we've got at the bell. I got him at 52.68 at the bell.
Wow. It's very even then.
Using our time. Very, very even, which means he averaged 13.17 for each 100-meter split in the opening 400 and getting back to that opening 100 of 13. So just like really mature, almost like masterclass of
like
800.
A pro. Yeah. 16.
And you made the comment here that it was almost a bit like Seb Coe-ish down this back straight where he just pours it on. 118.86 through 600, so he's just run 26.1 from the bell to the 600-meter point. Again, it's just all extremely even.
Yeah.
And then just the power here in the final 100 meters. Look at this. I mean, the camera didn't even really know where he was. Coming up to the line, Joe Martin, a very good runner. Sam Ruthe just absolutely blitzes him. 146.81, so 27.95 for that final.
I think he's matured as an athlete, because I remember Ben's video, which was a great video, and that's when I personally first thought this guy isn't just someone who's done a lot of training and using a lot of aerobic profile to run quick over, say, 1,500 and 800 when he ran that 151 low in the junior boys last year. And even Ben himself on the stopwatch was going, oh my God, what's he doing? Thinking he was going to blow his stack. And that day proportionately, I forget the split, but it was probably not that much slower than that. And Ben was going, oh my God, what's going to happen here? And he held on around 151. So today, a lot more measured through 400, proportionate to the shape he's in. So he's growing mentally as well as physically, which is incredible. Because I'm so excited, as you know, Jason, to get carried away when you're a big star like that in a race with no paces. I mean, it even happened to Josh Hoey in the US trials, right? He just got carried away by running off the front.
Yeah, I mean, just putting all of this into context as well. 10 o'clock in the morning, that race was run, probably in front of about 100 people there in Hastings. It's not exactly, even a, national, whatever they call them, black singlet meet in New Zealand. It's just like a, it's almost like a heat. That's when they used to run the heats back in our day, right? So again, just 52.68, 54, what would that make it? 54.13. So 54.1 for the final lap there. And just what jumped off to me as well, mentioned it when we were watching, it's like it was very reminiscent of Coe and that world record that he ran in back in 1981, the legendary 141.73, because he was so measured in that opening 400 meters. And whether if that was just instinct or by design, that's some amazing coaching and race strategy work from Craig and from Ben and execution from Sam. But he was
just something we haven't talked about with him. I saw I used the words, I use this term somewhat facetiously, but he only ran 49 mid to high in the 400 meter relay, which, okay, of course he's tired, but that means he's not a 47 high guy like you were, Jason, as a junior. So he's got that beautiful, and you can see from his beautiful running form, he's got that beautiful speed strength that all these great guys like Walker and Ovet and Cram. I know Coe was a bit quicker. He was more that sort of almost 4.8 type that could go up the clock, but he's got that, because I could run myself like 50 point-ish, definitely under 50 in a relay when I was a 152 guy, and the work rate he's his output at like 52, 53 pace has got that beautiful, a bit like Nick Willis. like that beautiful speed strength, which is really encouraging.
Well, it was, and that strength in the home straight was a little bit like John Walkerish, wasn't it? It's almost like that bustling.
That's what Sammy said. Yeah. No, sorry, it was Phil. No, it's Phil. Phil Clyde.
Phil said that, yeah.
Yeah, he did in the like Walkerish type of.
That's right.
Strength. Yeah, it's incredible.
And to, again, a lot of people understand the details here. Less than 24 hours before this, he'd obviously run 3:38.62 in the heat of the 100, which is just mind-blowing in itself. And I didn't put that race up because it's a little bit longer. I did the same thing though with the clock here. I got the splits as well as I possibly could. 57.5 for the first lap, 156.2 at 800 meters, which, I mean, I didn't go back and look at those senior boys results in the actual 800 final. I would wonder how many senior boys in New Zealand could actually run faster than 156.2 for an 800 meters in a race. Don't think it'd be that many. So 57.5, 58.7. He was 240.3 at the bell, so he closed in about 58.3. So again, you're starting to see, or you're seeing the results of this sort of strategy of even pace running that's very, very common right now. But what is rare is the ability to execute it at such a young age so well. I think that is what is truly astounding. There's no pacemakers out there. There's no wave light, so there's just some really positive things here with Sam Ruthe that we're seeing. And then that's not even taking into account what he did in the 1500 final, where he was basically on a similar pace through 1300 meters. Whether they had just decided before the race that if he was feeling good, he should push on and try and break the record again. If he wasn't, maybe just to shut it down. But clearly he shuts it down in the last 200 meters. I think he ran like 20 seconds for the last 100. What a weekend of running, Shane.
Incredible.
And here's a good one for you. Has there been a better weekend of running by a New Zealand middle distance runner and we could just go over 815, these traditional distances, since John Walker back in 1974? So obviously at the Com Games, and Walker didn't even do this over the course of 3 days, right? But Walker, of course, ran 144.9 in the final of the 800. He came back and ran 332.4 in the 1500 meters, famously behind Wabai. But I was just trying to think about like which New Zealand middle distance runners would have ever run this kind of double in the last like over 50 years, right? It's very rare that 147 is actually even broken in New Zealand. In fact, let's see if we could name some guys who may have done it. We know that Snell definitely did it, right? We know that Walker did it. But then after that, did Sean Farrell ran 146 in Wanganui. Do you remember that? Like 146 high in Wanganui when he was sort of coming into his own, maybe like 96 or something. And then James Preston obviously ran 144.9 at that awesome performance at the New Zealand Championships, I think, in last year, in 2024, in that rainy night at Newtown Park. But then other than that, I can't remember of too many other New Zealanders that had actually run under 147 on home soil, right?
Certainly not when they were 16 and they ran 338 in a schoolboys heat the night before.
Exactly. So in terms of an 800, 1500 double, I think that's just, yeah, I mean, it's unfathomable how good that is, that what he did at a schoolboy level. It's now becoming like first year senior, I guess back in our old terminologies, year 11. Where could these records potentially end up? I mean, we could have New Zealand secondary school records that for a long time, guys like us growing up, we used to look at these records in the book and just think they were so awesome and like, oh my God, some of the names, right? We never forget them. They're etched into our memory. And the thought here that, in a couple of years' time, the New Zealand secondary school's 800-meter record could potentially be 145 mid, maybe 335 something. It's just like, wow.
But I suspect what's going to happen is with the running boom, running's so popular, as you know, in the States and Auckland, there's run clubs everywhere. What I suspect is going to happen, a bit like Bannister with the 4 minute mile. I'm not saying anyone, because they're not, going to come out in the next few years and run faster, because they're not. But I could see it where all of a sudden you've got, like, say in 2027, 3 guys breaking 150. I could just see that, because he is a relatable guy. Admittedly, he's miles ahead of the pack. He's a relatable guy for young bucks coming through, going,
Agreed.
oh, well, he did this and he did that, and Kirkwood's got a great thing going on down there, and that's an area with enough. There are enough. A track in itself is a very means unlimited sport. All you really need is the freedom to be able to run. And so you're going to get kids springing up who see this, and with the internet the way it is, oh my God, that guy's doing this and that. And then there's all the furor around him going overseas and all that, going, man, I can run too. And, here's people I can plug into, like his father, Ben, and Craig Kirkwood, and all these other people down there doing, and in Auckland, and for that matter, anywhere in New Zealand, going, wow, that's not a bad life to carve out of this talent. So I could just see it coming down all those times now. He's the first guy. He's the pioneer, but I could see everyone running quicker, getting better.
I mean, that's great points, because we see it globally as well. We've seen it globally in the men's 800 and the men's 1500 and even 5K, just all events in particular. Look at women's 1500. I mean, we've now got multiple women down around that, under 353 and that kind of close to 350. And that was the world record for so long, and just seemed like a barrier that was untouchable. I mean, I even just mentioned this guy just before for his performance at the Nationals last year, James Preston. I mean, there's no doubt that those young kids in New Zealand, they know the national champion in their events, right? Like young kids growing up, and the same way that we knew who Snell, Walker, and Phil, even like Phil Clode, we knew who PC was, national senior champion. So there's no doubt that like a young guy like Sam Ruthe is looking forwards and seeing the likes of Sam Tanner, who he actually trains with, right? And James
Willis,
Preston,
right, when he was younger, watching
100%.
Nick, watching a guy win a medal in the Olympics, or watching him in the Olympics, and knowing who he is. It's no different for guys like we talked about with Phil and Robbie and Buncey and all those people that would have seen what the exploits of Walker, at least in the latter part of his career, or Walker, Walker, Quacks, Dixon, spawning from having watching Snell and Hellberg. 100%, it imprints, like you said, it etches in your mind. Going, I've got a relatable person there's a lot of similarities between my skill set, my upbringing, my community. I can do it.
Totally. So yeah, James, you got a young Sam Ruthe there sitting at 14 or 15 years of age, seeing James Preston won 1:44.9 in the national championships, and he's sitting there thinking, why can't I run only 2 seconds slower? Like, of course I can. Yeah. I'm only a handful of years younger.
I think too, like having Tanner, absolutely, having Hayden Wild winning medals in the Olympics, being involved with all that, and seeing able to be physically reach out and touch these guys on the shoulder and realize they're human just like him. They have frailties, they have good days, they have bad days, they work hard and they enjoy it, and they've garnered a great life out of it. It makes it very relatable and real to someone like him.
Yeah.
The tricky part is that if you think of Sam, and I'm sure his parents do, but in a broader sense, like a precious gem, like he's got unprecedented level of achievement for someone so young. And I think we saw it with Craig Mottram, who was a 335. I saw him run 335 when he was about 18 over in the Grand Prix final in Melbourne, and his star burnt so brightly, and there was like this unbelievable level of tenacity and ferocity, with a lot of racing, a lot of attention. And I just hope that this, some people are built different, right? You got like a LeBron James or Tiger Woods, and there's a lot of pressure on them, not necessarily from a parent, but there's just a lot of expectation on them, and they're taking what they've been given, their God-given talent, so to speak, and they've got this fertile community and environment around them that pushes them on. And my only concern would be, don't milk the cow till it's, right now, and extract all of this and at a long-term cost, because as we both know, You can get a lot out of someone, but you don't know that the damage is the wrong word, but you don't know how much you're extracting in terms of the preservation of that asset, so to speak, in terms of what he can do going forward. So I don't think there's pressure from Ben. I've never got that impression. No. I don't think they're making him do anything he's not loving and jumping into and wanting to do. You got the social media thing. He's the star. So I don't think it's anything like that. My only concern, I think maybe that's what Rojo meant, is that
I think so.
It's just a lot. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of racing, and you would hate for the potatoes, as my old coach used to say, to be dug up too quickly, and then and not that would be my only. That's when I see it all, and I can't help but be. I'm on the train too. I'm like, this is just so fun and intoxicating to watch. But you've got a guy there who is just unrivaled in terms of his class and ability, and you just like, I just hope that they preserve him.
Yeah, since we're going hard on the metaphors, I heard a good one about forests. Like so it's like almost as if you've got a patch of forest, and you know how it's actually healthy for forest to burn down at some points because it regenerates the growth and et cetera, et cetera. Well, there's kind of three ways you can do it, right? You've got a patch of forest that you need to burn down for it to regenerate. It's like you can set that fire, and you can either put on a ton of accelerants and make that fire burn really hot really quickly and just wipe out that forest really quickly. You can either stand by and just let it do what it does naturally, and just say, hey, if we get a few hot days with some winds, that'll help fan it, etc., etc. Or what you can do is you can actually burn down that forest in a really measured way, right? You can put in some fire breaks. You can actually craft the way that you burn down that forest, so maybe it doesn't just happen all at once, etc., etc. And so I think that that's kind of an interesting way to potentially look at the development of a career here. And I totally agree with you. I find it hard to believe that those guys, that the team there are actively, pushing Sam on to do things he doesn't want to do. I think it's more like, where's that balance between 2 and 3? How are you letting this kind of fire rage naturally, but also at the same time just adding in a little bit of potential structure to say, we want it to burn this way, right? Because we're aware of all these things that we've seen in the past, and
look how much less, just to get out of the metaphor, which is a fabulous one, by the way, back into getting the rubber on the road. Look at how hyped and how much attention you had, and also Sam's father, Ben. Look how much, like, I remember as I wasn't anywhere near your guys' level, but you guys were the guys. It was Ben Ruthe and Jason Stewart and all that. And then out of nowhere, I remember racing Nick Willis, and I believe either beating him or just losing to him as an under 18 in Hamilton in 1999, early 99. I remember Don McFark was saying he was quite disappointed by young Nick Willis's race afterwards, because his brother Steve was a 4-minute miler, and he thinks Nick is the next big thing in New Zealand running. And I remember not really knowing who Nick Willis was, and I remember, so I still am a real athletics nerd, looking him up, and I saw he'd won the 1500 as an old junior in 98 up at Papakura, and I remember out sprinting that Chris Sloan from down in Christchurch way, and I remember thinking, but I don't think he's that good. And it was all allowed to burn, as you said, burn down naturally. And he kind of was under the radar. He was like 80th at National Schools Cross.
Yeah.
When he was a 148 high guy, he was still like a 853K runner. So I think that is a good prototype for preserving an asset that obviously all of that ability is in there. Yeah. And whereas you yourself, Jason, you can speak to that if you like, are an example of someone who was really serious and focused, and you had kind of 5 years of bandwidth of being serious by the time you left school, right? Which I suspect you think, we've never really talked about it, but I suspect you think possibly was detrimental to you going into seniors.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking back in hindsight, my career went down the path of, it was basically not enough input on me, or not enough kind of reins put on me to hold me back in a sense. And the unfortunate thing from my side is that I basically dictated that, and I wanted that way. So I kept my parents very much at bay, right? So they couldn't come in and say, "Hey, are you?" And also they didn't have the knowledge, like sort of that definitely that Ben and Jess have. They didn't have the knowledge to be able to, jump in there and say, "Hey, Jason, you need to stop." And either way, I was so single-minded and so strong-willed, I kind of just would have, brushed them off anyway. And also Julian, my coach, who was a great coach, the late Julian Jones, awesome guy. I mean, he was very much more on the side of, he taught me a lot, but he also taught me what to understand and coach myself. So he was a little bit hands off as well. Like, particularly also when I left school, I had a lot more sort of creative control with what I want to do in training. And I think the point would be is that to sum it all up, you're 100% right. I wish I had had somebody come in and say, there are just times, Jason, when you can't just always do every workout to your absolute max, because that's not always the point. And so I was definitely more in the, I certainly wasn't pushed, because the only person pushing myself was myself, but I also didn't have anybody who was really like crafting me or guiding me and saying, hey, this is, you're going to be able to maximize your ultimate potential or your ceiling if you just do things in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
So it was just very hands off and very neutral and very natural. But again, like sometimes when you leave it up to the athlete just to like go hard, it doesn't work.
I think all in all, you've got this precocious talent who lives in a world that we never experienced as teenagers, with such a spotlight on him. You've got parents, particularly Ben, who is a very excitable character. He's so proud of his son and his daughter, who I never really watched her run, but I came up on YouTube because I'd watched the video of Sam's race again and watching her run. I think it was low 4:30s.
Yeah.
And she just looked incredible. She didn't look forced or, in terms of her form. She looked, or shuffly. She had this beautiful, she's little, but this raking stride. She's going to be, wow, she might even
awesome
be better
too,
as good as him. But yeah, you've got this whole situation, and it's just my great hope is he's continued to be nurtured the way he raced on the weekend. He is being nurtured along in terms of the training. Craig Kirkwood knows what he's doing, I would say, as well as anyone, and he's got the track record to prove that. I just hope it's not too much for the kid, not the training necessarily or even the racing, but just the attention, it's a big thing to carry. And, these freak athletes, he is a freak athlete. He is unbelievable. Yeah. I just hope that he can carry that forward, all that expectation, which is primarily probably from himself, like you said, Jason, with you. I just hope that he doesn't burn himself out. That's my only hope. But there's always that risk of someone operating at that level anyway. So it's not like it's unusual that this guy has to carry this expectation. That's why in the NBA there hasn't been another LeBron, and there never will be, and there will never be another Michael Jordan. I suspect in golf there will never be another Woods, because the level which they promise by their early achievements suggests this folklorish level of career, and to live up to that, it takes a special person as well as a special athlete to actually be able to live up to what what your level as a young person is. It's not. That's why it is a massive story. Like Sam Ruthe is a massive story, like those guys were, because it's not normal.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what that just reminded me of? When we came off the 18th green in that second round at Tiari, and those two guys that were ahead of us, and we had no idea who those guys were. And I don't know how we got onto it. We said that we had like a track and field podcast, and one of the guys immediately was like
talking
about this young guy, Sam Ruthe. Oh no! And one of the guys was even like, what did he say? He was like, he's run faster than John Walker did to win the Olympics back in 1976, which obviously has some circumstances and caveats around it, but that's like the level of, he's like really well known in New Zealand now. And
yes, I've had mates who, just hobby joggers, like you remember Big Mike T from, the lawyer, lovely guy. He texts me routinely, he texts me after the 1500, 338, much better than your 352. And I said, 350, thank you very much.
Okay, moving on. Next topic, Shano. Back here to the United States of America, Josh Hoey, the reigning world indoor champion over 800 meters, obviously has also been in the news recently. The situation with Justin that has been clarified, thankfully, by Justin.
It's you're somewhat. I don't know him, but I know of him. So interesting. We have a take in life when we're, say, more aligned with, say, a certain person. Say right. Justin, you had him on the podcast. He coached Hoey down from 147 to 142. Fired is the wrong word, but they parted ways.
Right.
I was just thinking about it. So if we sort of put a control counter narrative and we said you were Josh's mate, and Josh was, was going his own way for those reasons, I think that you would still think he was wrong to do what he's doing. And I think you would think that because how often in history has a coach gone away from an athlete because they want to do, an athlete left a coach, this is effectively what he's done, because they want to do less? I would probably say zero. No one goes away. It's usually because of either ego or some countervailing thing that reason why they want to be faster and better, and they think by controlling it themselves that they will be able to do that. I know I was like that, and that was an ego and but also an impatience and sort of erroneous belief that I knew better or that I was giving more attention to what I was doing than, say, a coach I had, and this will work out well. So it's an interesting one. So what do you think about that whole way of looking at it? I mean, if you weren't aligned with Justin and you were aligned with you knew Josh Hoey, he was your mate, what would be your take on it then? Because that sort of controls the fact you are somewhat aligned with Justin.
Well, just because I am sort of the mind that, I guess I'm aligned with Justin just because I've been through a little bit of experience myself, as we all have as athletes, of, when you do just leave things to your own devices, you can kind of spiral in, it's not in bad ways, but you'll always, that desire to be better, that thirst to be better, just sometimes pushes you in a direction. It's a little bit what we were just talking about with Sam, right? It's like sometimes you need somebody to actually pump the brakes a little bit for your own good, even though it's not bad that obviously you're in great physical shape and you're just running incredibly fast, incredibly hard. But I mean, like right now, like to segue it into what we're seeing right now, this would be a good example. I mean, he runs 112.84 for 600 meters indoors, and it's like the first week of December. And I would say this: if this was a situation where he had, taken 6 to 8 weeks off after the middle of September, after the season was for all intents and purposes over for him, and he'd only been back training for he was doing his long work and he was only wearing his trainers, etc., and then was like, hey, I'm just going to run a 600 and see how it goes, and maybe I'll do a week of stride outs to get ready for it. And he came out and run 112.84, which, by the way, was only 3 100ths off the outdoor world record set by Johnny Gray. And as we saw in the race, he could easily have done that if he hadn't, for some reason, gotten patient and gone around his brother on the outside there for no particular reason at all. That was absolute madness. But if he'd just run that race, sub 113, off the back of sort of true base training, I would be like, wow, we could be in for something crazy. But I just don't believe, again, without having intimate knowledge, I can't believe that's possibly the case here, right? It seemed like this was a focused or dedicated attempt to do it. He definitely left it all out on the track in it, man. Like he was going hard in that final.
How did he go in that road mile? Because I haven't seen the results early in New Zealand. How did he go in it?
So he was first in the men's field. It was third overall because they do that sort of staggered start thing, which they got really wrong. But yeah, he cleaned those guys up again today. And
were there any other notable athletes in it?
Oh my God, yeah, it was an awesome field. It was like Nagoose, it was Kessler, Vincent Ciardi was there, Geordie Beamish was there, Ollie Hoare was in it. Who else? I mean, it was a loaded field.
Yeah,
so
loaded.
He won the men's side quite easily. Finished third overall. Again, they've got this weird kind of sort of handicap system that they didn't quite get right this year. Sinclair Johnson won the women's race quite comfortably. Nikki Hiltz was in second, and then in came Josh. But I just look at that too. I'm like, it was stunning to me that you would be on the east coast of the United States running 600 a week ago, and then you're crossing like 6 time zones to be in Hawaii to then go hard and win this men's mile. And I'm just like, wow.
I mean, it's not really that surprising that he won. I mean, he ran 3:29 this winter, and he's in 1:12.600 shape.
Yes, exactly.
And he's just strong. Yeah, that doesn't shock me. I mean, history would suggest otherwise, and it's the greatest predictor of the future. So is it a new dawn where people were able to do a lot more? It's sort of because, across the board, he's doing it. People are out there doing a lot more. I would say no, and I would say, a bit like my sports card market that I'm very obsessed with. You sort of watch a card go up, 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 and you think, shall I sell it or shall I be greedy? And quite often it comes down as quick as it went up.
Yeah.
And you look at people like Coe, who is expertly guided by his father and Peter Martin. You look at Walker without Shelley. You look at these athletes that have had one coach because to be a great athlete, here's the rub. You actually need to want to and enjoy completely killing yourself in training to succeed. And then but you also need to be either irreverent enough, which is rare in someone so driven, or intelligent enough to let go of the reins in a very nuanced way to some trusted figure that knows that you must do that, must really push yourself to achieve anything, but also know when to push and how to push.
Yeah.
And I just think if you're a mega talent like Josh Hoey and you've had someone guide you like Justin, you may not entirely agree with pulling back the way, say, a Justin Rinaldi says you need to pull back. But given he's managed to get him to pull back sufficiently to really come on in that last 12 months, it's like what he's effectively saying is, I want to improve at a rate of, just for example, 100% a year, and however you would measure that. I know that's not times, that doesn't work out mathematically, but I want to be 100% better athlete every year. So just more of the same, more pushing. My view is that the problem with that is if you push in a way that your body or your mind or your whole psychology doesn't actually, that it rejects, then your downside is so much, you lose so much momentum year to year to year. So I don't agree with it from what I see from the outside looking in. However, I can only comment, a bit like Rojo's comments with Sam Ruthe, I can only comment as a total outsider. So I don't really know. And right now, the guy's just set the indoor 600 world record just off the outdoor, and he's beaten all the world's top milers in a road race. So what do I know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the question is the interesting question is what it points to. I mean, does this point, like some of the chatter around message boards and just within the sport is like, we're probably the only guy that we've seen with a profile similar to Josh Hoey, right, is probably Seb Coe, right, with this range to be able to run under 3:30 for 1,500 meters. Now, Coe, a lot of people say, well, Coe never ran as fast over 600. Well, Coe also never raced a 600 as far as I know, but there's no doubt that when he was in 141.7 shape, he was probably like easily a sub 73 second performer. You can't tell me that a guy who can run 141.7 can't run under, 1 minute and 13 seconds for 600 meters. It's the same way that Rudisha ran 113.1 in 2016 when he was almost 4 years off his career peak, and he was a 45 low guy out of the blocks over 400 meters. So he was much, much faster. The question is like, is this pointing towards, some people are even saying that this could potentially point towards a world record for Josh Hoey. Like, do you think he's got any chance to run under 140.9? I'll just go first. I'm not quite sure that I see that. And one of the reasons would be is that I know that I know, for example, that he ran a workout last year in April. Justin sent me the video of this, of him running 113.5 for 600 meters in a workout. And he went on and ran another, I think he did 2,500 meters of total distance in that workout. So to me, I look at that and I'm like, well, 113.5 in a workout is probably comparable to 112.8 in a one-off race, especially on that very, very fast Boston track there. But yeah, I'm not quite sure if I see the world record in his sights. Like, what do you think this is pointing to if it's your sort of gut feeling?
I think he's just too impatient. I actually think he could get close or maybe break it if he actually just measured himself a little bit more.
Yeah,
because he's come out of nowhere, right? He was a precocious high schooler, so check, right? He has the mentality to do it. These great guys, like, was it you, or I think, or maybe it was Rinaldi on the podcast saying, or maybe it was something I read. I think it was something I read actually, and where maybe Let's Run interviewed Justin. He said he'd never seen someone so single-minded and tough and determined as Josh Hoey.
Justin said that on the pod.
Yeah. So that is a rarer quality than the physical part of it. And you saw in that 600 the way he was lurching and throwing himself. Obviously, the negative part of that is what toll is it taking on his bioenergetic system and his chassis, so to speak. What's that doing? How that is going to the well deep. Even with Sam Ruthe the other day, I remember saying to you how controlled, and that's obviously a class thing, like Walker-like. Phil Claude said how strong he was in that straight away, in both the 15 and the 8 records, like incredible. Hoey's throwing the kitchen sink at it, but he's got the mentality, I think, to be a great champion. Will his system survive long enough? I mean, I can't see why he can't run at least 141.5 based off last season and his ability. And if he could endure this intensity longer and build, why not? Could he run? I don't know, man. Like,
that's a
I mean, Wanyoni doesn't have great running form. He's run 141.1.
Yeah, I know. I don't really want to comment on that one. That would be the only thing for me when I look at the guys that have really, Kip Keita, Rudisha. Obviously, Rudisha holds world record at 140.9. Kip Keita's 141.24 coming off 48.3 in Zurich. Probably pointed to something a little bit faster than that if he was slightly more efficient, maybe using the knowledge or the strategy and the tactics that we see from the top 800 guys today. I'm just not sure whether I quite see the running form to do that for Josh.
Don't you agree, though, that Keita's record was 28 years ago. Rudisha's was 13, coming on 14 years ago. At that time, there wasn't the bevy of guys in that bracket just behind in terms of the time. Not to the extent we're seeing now. Was it 14 or 12 guys broke 143 this year, the highest ever?
Yeah.
Something crazy like that.
17 even, I think. Was
maybe. So
really high,
so it's moved on, I think, sufficiently to say that a Rudisha or a Kip Keita in this era, it's just the way it works, would be, even faster. So that record, whilst it's still a record, no one can dispute that in terms of the time it took to cross the line, doesn't symbolize, I believe, that the same disparity between them and the rest of the best in the world. So say coming in and nipping that record, someone comes out, and then you have a Rudisha or Kip Keita-like talent comes in and drops it by 0.7 a second because they're that much better. I remember in Rudisha's record how much that the one in Berlin, was it on the blue track where he
Berlin.
The rest of the best in the world were an afterthought. It was like a 5,000 meter race. You're not seeing that at the moment with these guys in the low 141s. You're seeing a lot of them there.
Yeah.
They don't look like Rudisha or Kip Keita in terms of how they move their bodies and the disparity between them and the rest. So, I think we need to look at it more in that context.
Yeah, I mean, I think the record that Josh can realistically get, just my personal opinion, is the American one. I think that while I think that Bryce Hoppel is a better mover than Josh, I think Hoppel's a very smooth runner. Like, I think when you start getting into that kind of sub 142 territory, like slight inefficiencies, it's like driving a really fast car, right? That's got a bit of a wobble on the wheel or something. Like at lower speeds, not such of a problem, but when you really get going, like those things can get out of control really quickly. But I don't see why Josh to me has got the sort of the mindset, not just the talent, but also the mindset and the drive to maybe overcome some of those like inefficiencies and get that US record. Like I could see him running 141.5, 141.4. I'm not quite sure whether I personally see the world record. I think that we've also been, to your point, what you're saying, we've also kind of been not fooled, but we've sort of just as a sort of a group of track fans who love the 800 meters, we're looking at all these performances and we're saying, hey, it just seems so straightforward and intuitive that this world record is going to go down. But, man, I think we were on the pod a couple of weeks ago and said, who would have thought after the season that we saw in 2024 with all those guys breaking through, running even under 142, who would have thought that record lasted through 2025? It seemed like a foregone conclusion, and yet here we are. Only did we not run the world record this year over the 800 meters, we didn't even get to the same level that we were in 2024. In fact, the world's best time this year was, I think, 141.44 by Wanyonyi, and of course him and Arup and I think Sajati both had run faster last year. But hey, either way, man, this is
you take out the running form, the slightly unusual circumstances around changing coaches, etc., and you look at the guy's credentials. I mean, he's the Diamond League champion. He has run 142.01. He just ran 112.6 for 600 in November or December, and then he's just beaten the world's best milers over a road mile, which historically someone like our own Nick Willis, who's more of a 15.3 than a say 8.15 guy, those guys with the better aerobic profile, it tends to lend more to them. It's actually watching a great. It's if you YouTube it, you may have seen it. 1985 London road mile had all the top guys in it. It had like Ovett, it had Cram, it had Wessenhager, all those guys, and Ovett trumped Crammy, who you would think 84 he had the respiratory problems. Ovett, you'd think he's sort of a bit off the boil by then, and he was a bit of the Olympics, but slightly uphill, I believe, leading into in the final, and trumped him. So those guys, like, generally it's a stronger sort of more 15.3 or more VO2 maxi guy than speed strength or muscular strength. So I think he's incredible. 112.8 and a 329 this winter to run 112.8 now. If he can hold together, I mean, who knows? Who knows?
I thought when you brought up the 1985 race, I thought you were going to say the Skeller Up Steeples.
The Skeller Up Steeples.
Yeah, with Sammy Maloney leading the pack. PC was in that one too. Okay.
And say I'm a golfing buddies with a 3-time winner of the Skeller Up Steeples.
Skeller Up Steeples. All right. Well, I mean, hey, it's going to be really interesting. Certainly was today. It's crazy when I saw the thread on Let's Run this morning, as you do, about the race, and I thought to myself, I'm like, man, I got a feeling that Josh Hoey is running this. A lot of the pundits on the board were talking about Nagu, so talking about Kessler for the win, etc., etc. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Hoey's running this. Going to the participant list and saw him there, I'm like, man, I think they'll be hard pressed to beat this guy who is just extremely motivated right now and clearly in pretty good race form. To be honest, I watched it. The rest of the field didn't look like they were in awesome shape at all, which to me is, especially when I think of Nagoose in the season that he had last year, where I think he was just in his shape was, he was spread far too thin over the season. He was in a lot better shape last year because I think he won this mile last year. I was like, it was almost like good to see him not in that kind of top shape. I'm like, that to me is like a guy that's learned something, and he's like, I'm not going into December. I do not care if I win the Honolulu Road Mile here and 10 grand. Like my season's focus is much later in the year. But anyway, that was just awesome, and again, not surprising that Josh Hoey was just able to, through force of will and sheer determination, come through for the win there.
I need to go soon, so I think we pick a topic out of Moo and Grand Slam track. Let's do Grand Slam tracks. We've done a lot of sort of chat about athletes with like the levels of training. Yeah, and I think it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one for me, being a lawyer, about what's happened there. Although the main or the only thought I have at this stage is nothing to do with law. It's actually just an observation of a sociological observation of human behavior. Right. It's like, I know you've been always bearish about GST, and you proved, and you definitely take the more cynical line out of the two of us, but in this case, you've been 100% unequivocally right in terms of all of your concerns around the fundamentals that this concept was built on have proved to be, unfortunately. And I thought at the beginning, being a little bit critical, because it is a great thing. Someone is trying to upset the apple cart,
I agree
make
with you.
track bigger in the States. However, what I read, and I've sort of been somewhat, being a lawyer that does work in the startup space, I've always had a modicum of sympathy for Michael Johnson and the people involved, to the extent that it's a freaking difficult thing to put together. Anything that doesn't have a critical mass early on, you need to, like I remember saying to you on one of the other podcasts, that what you really need is an unfettered control of a certain amount of money to get through that stage before investors can rip the carpet out. And he never got that. And he's probably maybe a little bit naive, argue a little bit conceited to think he could do that without having been in this space for 30 years. I assume he hasn't been, from what I've read, but he has. But what I don't like, and this may surprise you, but what I really don't like is when I read on the Let's Run website, is they are still trying to, and I guess that's America, they're still trying to spin a bankruptcy like it is just a sort of pothole on the road to further success. It's like, no, it's not. It's got the connotations of bankruptcy have negative connotations for a reason. It means you're bankrupt.
Yes.
There's no more to say than that.
Yeah.
And put it this way, like you may, like with Trump with his, was it Chapter 11 or whatever, his bankruptcies and all of that, like even Trump, and this is saying something, wouldn't have the audacity to spin a bankruptcy as a good thing in a media release. He kind of quietly just sort of totters off and then goes and does something else. And then when the press put heat on it, he just sort of ignores it and he goes, "Oh, look at these watches I'm selling. Have a watch like your favorite president. It's
I've got
great.
a new meme coin.
Yeah, new meme coin. Don't worry about that. Eric will look after you with the meme. It's really good. I love it's really good." But so the audacity and the kind of, and the stupidity, to be honest, to come out, there's no better way to wind someone up than going, "Don't worry, we've failed, but we're on this journey still." It's like, how silly does he think people are? Or he, Grand Slam track.
Yeah, exactly. You don't open yourself up for a lot of sympathy when you kind of treat people like idiots, right? I mean, I think that's been the problem for me, Dare. It's like, you're right. I never understood. I've always had two fundamental problems from the start with Grand Slam Trap. Number one, I never understood the format. I never understood how it could work when you're talking only 24 events. You want to spread them over 3 days. You've only got track events, so there's nothing to fill time. I just never understood how this would ever become a compelling product. I mean, that was proved right even on the first meet, when you had like this situation in that 3K where guys were running for third. Grant Fisher famously was basically just running for third. Hargos Gebrawet ran 18 seconds for the final 100 meters of a 3K, just jogging, and you're framing this up as like the best of the best. This is the winning matters over everything. Well, clearly it doesn't, because you can come third and still win the whole thing. It was confusing, not so much to me because I understood what was going on, but through the eyes of a general population or another consumer, this alleged consumer they were looking to capture, didn't make sense. And then as well, I always had a problem with just Michael Johnson, the way that he had, I guess, spoken about himself. Like all this talk about, Olympic hero Michael Johnson, serial entrepreneur, award-winning, this award-winning TV journalist or TV commentator, this kind of stuff. It just made it seem like it wasn't really about his concept in Grand Slam track, that it was more about a promotion of him. And then to cap it off, just exactly to reiterate your points, as this has been going on, right, there's never been any humility or just almost honesty about how this has all gone downhill. When they had to cancel, when they basically cut the Philadelphia meet short, and then they went through and had to cut the entire LA meet short. They had that famous press conference where it was like, we've set out to achieve, we've achieved everything we set out to do. This has been a real great success, blah, blah, blah. Looking forward. I'm like, dude, you cannot expect to get sympathy and get people on board with you when you treat them like idiots. Like, we're not stupid. We understand like why this has happened. And then what you're saying right now is just a cherry on the sundae to be basically filing for bankruptcy and then framing it up as some
imagine if you're one of these you're one of these athletes that supposedly has won money, and then you have the people that their lawyers have been in touch, and then you see a press release going, "Don't worry, it's all good. We're still on track." It's like, well, where's my freaking money?
Yes.
Or money.
Even crazier, it's like, hey, we're filing for bankruptcy, so you've got nothing, but don't worry, we'll be back next year, and maybe you can come and run at our meet then too. Like, what are you doing? Hey,
I just can't help but have a chuckle, Jason, as when you were back and we were going back and forth as we tend to do, waxing lyrical, and your golfing buddy Travis that I met over in Portland with Stewie last year, was it Travis talking about the invisible hand of capitalism, and I can't help but have a chuckle here. Yeah, but he might be right. That might be quite a fitting point here, because you think about like a Grant Fisher type, when and it's not Grant Fisher's fault, but you go out there and you shut it down and you run tactically to get your money. But the product was a shithouse product that no one watched, no one cared about. So maybe the invisible guiding hand is at play here, because he put up something which wasn't attractive and valuable through no fault of his own, through playing that game. And he wasn't rewarded in the end through no fault of Grant Fisher's, but he ended up getting either, what did he get, 30% or whatever of that promised pocket money that he was.
No, I know. It's a bad situation on many levels. I think it's also, I think to finish up, because I know you got to roll, I think the big question is like, number one, did this maybe expose a little bit of, I mean, you've mentioned this before, maybe even on the pod or at least behind closed doors, about sort of the amateurish on the agent side of, with so much money being at play, not having any kind of guarantee about this money. I mean, you go from basically nothing. I mean, the prize money was so outrageously large compared to the next highest prize pools in the sport, which are the Diamond League, right? I mean, it's only like $10,000 to win a Diamond League meet. You see, like, it's $100,000 to win one of these Grand Slam track races. Maybe a little bit of naivety there from the athletes and agents involved as to just like believing that this money would just magically appear, right?
I mean, like a total lack of. So you've got sort of through historically anachronistic circumstances where you get paid on effectively a high trust system, because those Diamond Leagues need to be around. They have been around a long time, and they need to continue to be around for the sport to succeed. So you've got like an overreaching institutional kind of, a bit like the government with their airlines, with the country's airlines. You've got an almost guarantee that they will be back, and therefore they need to meet their contractual promises, even if they possibly aren't written contractual promises. So you're going to get your money, and so it's allowed a system where the agents, lawyers, if there are indeed lawyers involved, have become relaxed, and they've just known that they'll get it because they've always got it. However, when you look at the Grand Slam track, it doesn't sound like many agents or lawyers representing the athletes went, hang on, this is a greenfields, this is a startup setup, this is a lot more money, this is not proven, and didn't even look into where that money was coming from, or whether in fact that money was sitting there available, guaranteed, to be distributed without any way of the investors either not paying it through or clawing it back. So it looks like there's no belt and braces put around that. For example, funds on escrow and in a independent lawyer or accountancy firm's trust account going, there is an unqualified obligation on that third party to release that money on a certain event taking place, i.e. winning the level of races and Grand Slam tracks. So that's a learning curve for those athletes and the managers. It's a little bit sad in the end of the day, but it just shows how difficult it is to upset the apple cart and move the needle, so to speak, in a different direction for any sport.
Well, final question for you then. I think this is a good one to wrap up on. Do you think that this would have any potential negative forward-facing impacts for anybody else that wants to come along in the future to do something like this? I mean, I get the that's interesting. We can agree to disagree on this one. I just got this feeling that like the next person that comes along and is like, hey, investor X or investment group X, we've got this really good idea. It's a track and field league, and we want to do this and this and this, and we need this amount of money. Are those investors not doing their due diligence and looking and saying, well, hold on a second, there was this track league, Grand Slam track, and not only that, it was headed up by this guy, Michael Johnson, who, they don't have intricate knowledge of the sport, right? They just probably look at it and say, hey, this guy was like a multiple-time Olympic champion, one of the all-time legends of the sport. He was a BBC commentator. All these things seem to be highly involved, and not even he could make it work. There's simply no way we're giving you this money. But do you have a different point of view?
What happens every crypto boom cycle?
Yeah,
people get on the bandwagon. Rather, they ride it up, and oftentimes the great unwashed will lose all, if not most, of their money, and then they swear off it, and then they get on and they see on their little apps, once again, it takes off. And because there's no underlying value to this asset, you have a perceived asymmetrical upside, but what you really have, it's just gambling, right? But every time it comes around again, because enough time passes for the pain to heal. And, what are the two biggest predictors to emotions that fuel human behavior? Greed and fear, right? If you're track athletes, you're getting 10 grand for a diamond league, and someone comes along and says, here's a way of making 10 times that, and it's got nothing to do with your sponsorship commitments, etc. They're all good. You still get the same amount of money from them. You can run a few low-key races in April, which it's a separate topic. It turned out to have arguably a detrimental effect on those athletes in terms of their performances later. But most, like I said, we're driven by greed and fear. The fear is low there in terms of, at least in a black and white, as opposed to looking at things in a nuanced or more technicolor fashion. In a black and white sense, they've gone, well, there's very little to lose. Why would I not? So I would think either those athletes or similar athletes would once again do something like this. And I would just hope there'd be enough learnings from the mistakes those athletes and their managers made with Grand Slam track to say, we'll do it, show us how we're guaranteed to get paid.
Yeah, I think the athletes for sure, but do you think we'd even get to that situation where somebody would be willing to pump the kind of money into the sport to do?
It's not a lot of. It's not much money.
Let's say the Track Stitch executive team, you and I, like went to some venture capitalist and was like, "Hey, we've got this amazing idea for a track league. It's awesome. Would you invest, $15-20 million in it?" Do you think they would be like, granted we had a good business case, do you think they would be like, yeah, absolutely? Or do you think that they're looking at the failure of Grand Slam track and going, hold on a minute, guys, this is just not something that we've seen evidence that this kind of stuff in this particular sport doesn't work, and we're using Grand Slam track as our key point? Or you don't think that matters? Because it might not, I don't know.
This isn't obviously a political or economics focused podcast, but and this may rub people up the wrong way, but there is an extraordinary amount of private capital flowing around in the world, and all it would take would be a super wealthy person whose son or daughter was a Sam Ruthe, and that is a tiny amount of money for some people in this world.
Guess so.
Yeah. Top 1% or top 5% of, and it's nothing for them to drop 100 million on something. But a lot of those people have got a friend, him, old Jimmy McLaughlin,
right?
Former 800 schoolboy champ as well.
Legend of the game.
Shout out to him. Not a follower as of yet, but we're working on him. He is involved with a lot of benevolent causes in Dunedin over the last decade, and he's worked really hard. Now he's doing a little bit of work with effectively family offices or wealthy private individuals. And he said that the amount of people that have made a lot of money out there and want to do something to further what they think makes the world a better place, and the money these people have is quite astonishing. And just through being a lawyer for some wealthy people, the amount of money out there. So like I said, they have a son or a daughter or a nephew or a niece. Kevin Hickman, remember him? He was he funded a lot of Mark Rogers, 800-meter runner.
Yes,
James is actually ex-partner's stepfather. He was a wealthy guy through retirement homes, Ryman. So there are people out there, and all it would take was a person to come along. And I don't think those people really care too much about whether the project has a high chance of succeeding. They've poured a lot more money into more futile endeavours than that.
Oh, well, that's a good thing to hear because
it is. It's great.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. It is a good thing to hear because you just hate to think that this was sort of held against the sport in a negative way moving forwards, and we may never see these kind of opportunities again. Because at the end of the day, it was, what if everything had come to fruition with Grand Slam track, and including potentially, what may, difficult to say, but including potentially the financial incentive for Michael Johnson plus the fame and the notoriety that would have come along with having this track league be successful, there's no doubt that it would have been positive for the sport to finally get, even a semblance of parity in terms of money with other sports.
That's never ever
going to underpaid compared to
that's never ever going to happen because you go and you just take the temperature of like my stepson in terms of kids. Running may be cool as in terms of the health and fitness buzz. No one's going out there to watch someone run. It's just not. It's sort of the 60s before all these things like a LeBron or a Kobe or a Pat Cummins or an All Black or just Shohei Ohtani or anyone. It's ball sports. That's the fun stuff. They're not going out there running. So it'll never be a money sport. It won't. And so and that's
but it was
fine.
Nice for a little while that there was, something there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, there wasn't, and that's because Michael Johnson, unfortunately, it wasn't his money. So someone could turn the tap off because he had to make promises he couldn't keep in terms of what the vision he sold. He'd have been better off going to these people and going, it's going to take 10 years and I need a lot of money, and I think I could make it. I think I could make it mildly successful. Unfortunately, it sounds like the people he went to were more like sold a pup in terms of this could be big. This is going to be massive.
Or will be big.
Or will be big. Yeah. Give me time. It will be big. But it sounds like they were much more, they took an approach which was along the lines of we want to see it having so many green shoots that it could even live up to showing like it could be like the NBA in 3 years. Well, they're freaking dreaming. It's never going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was fun. There was something to talk about, and it was exciting in terms of what it would look like. But in the end of the day, it was a pup.
It was a pup. All right, mate. That's where we done about an hour 10, I guess.
Yeah.
Good stuff though. There's always, I mean, it's the sport's in a great shape, at least from a in terms of having plenty to talk about. I mean, not just on the New Zealand side, but globally. I mean, it seems like there's always something going on in the sport of track and field or running right now. So that's positive.
Just out of nowhere, I just had a text from a figure from our past, and it said, "I think you'll like this T-shirt." And look at this. It's Shafraz Khan, but look at his look at the name on his T-shirt.
Hold on, bring it over. Who is it?
Shafraz.
I can't quite see the name though. Who is it?
It's the Khanmeister.
The Khanmeister? What a guy that was. Good off sprinter, wasn't he? Bowled good off breaks, or was he a leggy?
Neither.
Oh.
I mean, once he was bowling. Well, that actually might have been another one of our podcast listeners, Clyde Rosanowski. Actually, I think I've confused the two, but they were of a similar ilk. And once Rosanowski was bowling leg spinners down at the old Dominion Road indoor centre, and what purported or represented themselves to be leg spinners, and he was dropping them down on the pitch. And then one of the batsmen went to the guy who hadn't faced him yet went up to the other guy and sort of went like left, right, like this in terms of which way is he turning it. And the guy who had faced him already just went dead straight.
Oh, that's so good. All right, mate. I think that's about it for the podcast. Good stuff. Good to see you back in the corporate offices there. Yeah, it was awesome to be there. You've done really well on a serious note, like awesome officers, and yeah, really proud of you for that, mate. That's great. So yeah.
Awesome.
Should we wrap it up?
Another one in the books.
Another one in the book, mate. We're building the fan base, the people's podcast will be massive before you know it.
Very good, mate.
All right, mate. Have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll see all of our 47 subscribers next week on the podcast for some more chat. All right, everybody. Peace. And have a good